All right, everybody, welcome. We're here at Tanner's Orchard Live with Grandma Tanner. She'll be cooking spaghetti squash and meatballs today. Go ahead and you can start anytime, Grandma.
Okay, we have beautiful spaghetti squash that we're growing this year. Sometimes there's a little spots on them, but we had a lot of rain before they started harvesting them. So I think a lot of people steer away from squash because they're so hard to cut. So what I recommend is you take a knife. I just have this big knife, but you pierce it.
Yeah, you usually use a smaller knife to pierce it.
But I'm going to use the same knife to cut it. And you pierce it about 3 times on each side, and I like to pierce it about where I'm going to cut it in half. So we'll do it 3 times on this side, and the reason you do that because you don't want it to explode in your microwave. And then this is for all the squash, because a lot of people, it's very hard to cut these squash. So I will put it in the microwave for 5 minutes, depending on the size. Now this one is a little bit bigger, so I'm going to pop it in the microwave here for 5 minutes. And it just softens that up. It softens it up, and then it's so much easier to cut. Like the Sweet Mama, I should have had all the rest of the squash here. The Sweet Mama is another one that's very hard to cut, and you do the same with that. Even the butternut. I did a butternut dish a few weeks ago, and it worked out real good. Now, when this gets done, then I will cut it and take the seeds out. But I have already made my spaghetti sauce and meatballs. And you can use any recipe that you want.
Now, how did you make the meatballs?
Well, actually, you can take hamburger and pack it together and then fry them. But I actually bought these. Because we're so busy here at the market, I thought, I'll just buy some meatballs. And you can get Italian meatballs at the grocery store in a little packet. And then you can mix them up with your favorite sauce. I did fry a little less than a pound of hamburger and blended it with this.
And that's why Grandma Tanner's cooking is so easy. Because she just buys the meatballs.
Yeah. I mean, there are very good meatball recipes, but anyway, so then after that is cut, I have a baking dish here, and I put about a 1/2 inch of water in that. So 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, and you put that in your oven. I will bake this squash. Probably it takes about 45 minutes to an hour at about 400 degrees or 425. I put it up to 425. Now if you don't want to bake it, you can microwave it, but you put the cut side down on a plate with water. And then that will keep it nice and moist, because you want that spaghetti when you roll it out to be real nice and moist. So we'll have that done here in a little bit. I went ahead and did one squash earlier, just so that it would be all done, because it did take about 50 minutes. So squash is so healthy. Another thing with this spaghetti squash, if you go to Weight Watchers, that's what they recommend. that you use spaghetti squash instead of pasta. There was an announcement or something in the news maybe 4 years ago that squash has so much fiber in it that it helped prevent colon cancer. So if you eat a lot of squash in the fall of the year, and sometimes you can cook it and then put it in plastic bags, Ziploc bags, freezer bags, and freeze it, and it's real easy to get it out and have it for a meal. But acorn and butternut are almost our top sellers. We do have one new this year. It's the first time our son grew it. Is carnival squash, and it's very similar to the acorn, and very attractive. You can put it on your table in a basket for decoration and then eat it, or mix your other squash with it.
And if you buy a squash and it starts getting a little soft spot or a bad spot in it, don't throw that squash away. Just cut that spot out, you know, with any produce that you get. Some stuff, it doesn't last forever, and we just cut it out, cut around it, and throw that little bad spot away and eat the rest. I think you got about, you're about done there on your microwave.
Okay, we'll get that out of there.
It's going to be hot, folks, so
Yes.
get a little Grandma Tanner hot pads there.
Yeah. It did not explode.
That's always a plus.
That's always a plus, because I'll tell you, when they explode in the microwave, it is one big mess to cut it up. So what I usually do is just kind of cut this end off. See, it's still kind of hard to cut. So just cut that stem off of there a little bit. And then right here where I pierced it, I take the knife, and it's real easy to cut down into. It's a lot easier than what it was, but.
And if it's still too hard for you to cut, you can put it back in the microwave for another 2 minutes or so. And
Yeah. So you gotta hang on to that squash while you're cutting it. And then I turn it over, and those 3 slits that I did before, I cut it down in there and cut it all the way through, or through to where the seeds are. It's a little challenge here. Got it all the way through. Okay, that is what it looks like, the seeds. And so you just take a spoon and you can just pull those seeds right out of there. You can see already the string that looks like spaghetti. So scoop that all out. Lots of seeds in the middle of this, but there is a lot of meat on these spaghetti squash. We went over to our son's house for supper the other night for their little girl's birthday, and she had spaghetti squash with spaghetti sauce. It was delicious.
So you just lay them in that cooking dish upside down,
Upside down.
meat side down, I guess.
Yeah, the cooked side down, and then about 425, you can put it in there for about an hour at 425. Or you can microwave them also. But baking is real easy, and then while you're baking that, you get your spaghetti sauce all ready.
So put them in the oven at 425 and cook them for about 45 minutes or until they're tender.
Until it's tender. And then you can stick it with a knife and you will find out how soft it is. So I have already cooked the squash, and it took a little, about 425. It was almost an hour. And I've got them right here. I put them in this so they would stay hot. And they're just real nice, and it's real nice. It just looks like spaghetti in there. Now, one way of doing this, if you buy smaller ones, you can fill that whole cavity with spaghetti sauce and meatballs, and then serve it. Everybody gets one, and then you have extras on the side, extra sauce on the side. But I'm just going to fill this cavity with spaghetti and meatballs. It's kind of fun. Or another way of doing it is scraping all that out, which I will do with this one. And then you can put a little bit of Parmesan cheese on there and dress it up a little bit. But so there you have it. It's everybody gets one. Now we will we'll scrape this one out, and you can see how how stringy it is. If it's nice and soft and done, it will just come right out of there, but it looks like spaghetti. There is a lot of spaghetti in just a half. That's a serving bowl clear full. So we are selling our squash for $2.99. These spaghettis for $2.99 each. So it's quite a deal. This is what it looks like. It's nice and yellow and very pretty. And then you can just put a little sauce all over the top of this. And it's a whole meal. You've got your meat and vegetable all in one. And all you need is a salad. So very healthy, very good. Put a little Parmesan on there. And there you have it.
Spaghetti squash and meatballs. Now we all get to try it.
Yep.
Thank you, Grandma Tanner.
You are welcome. We will see you next Thursday at 3 o'clock again.
Do you know what you're making next week?
I am making pork chops with our apple salsa.
Yummy. Alrighty.